Hello, good morning, friends. In continuation with the series of lecture about the development and origin of English language and its various aspects, today I'm here with a new lecture to discuss with you and to deal at large with some technical terms related to language and its development. Without wasting our time, let's get to our topic and start discussing these linguistic terms. One more thing that I would like to add here is these are the most important terms from a UGC net point of view. Out of these terms, most of the terms have been asked differently in different papers of UGC net. The first term that I'm going to discuss is Creole. Basically, Creole is a category of language or a variety that is mixture of few separate languages and was formed as a result of contact between culture or between the people of two different cultures. And uh, of this variety is the direct outcome of the colonialism. We can define Creole. It is a language um, that arises from the contact between the people who speak different languages, and a new language emerges out which contains features of both. So, before the development of language into its final form, uh, uh, it has to undergo certain changes, and Creole is one of the change because for the origin of the language, there is a word clash, clash. Clash or confrontation, confrontation. Clash or confrontation. This word is very important and significant. See, for example, what are the circumstances that necessitate or that uh, are the precursor behind the origin of a language. Uh, Two people belonging to different cultures, belonging to different languages, come in contact with each other, and then they start because either of them is familiar with the language of the other, and when their language mixes up and a new language comes out, and that language is called Creole. I guess you have got the idea about this Creole. The next is Pidgin. Uh, Let me dictate it from here. The slide. It is a grammatically simplified form of language, typically English, Dutch, or Portuguese, with a limited vocabulary. Some elements of which are taken from local languages used for communication between people not sharing a common language. Pidgin are not normally found as native languages but arise out of language contact between speakers of other languages. In other terms, Pidgin is also called talk pisin. See, when a people from Arab came in contact with an Indian whose native tongue is Hindi. So how would they communicate with to each other? This is the question. His native tongue, a person who is from Arab, his native tongue is Arabic, and a person who is from India, his native tongue is Arabic. If he starts communicating in Hindi, the Arab won't be able to understand it, and if vice versa, Arab starts his communication in Arabic, he won't be ascertainable or tangible to the Indian. So they opt a common medium of the exchange of for the exchange of the idea, and that medium is categorized or is termed as Pidgin. We can also call it an artificial and common medium of communication or language opted by different speakers. We can easily cite here many examples. If a North Indian comes in contact with a South Indian, South Indian speaks Malayalam or Kannada or Malayalam or Kannada, and the North Indian speaks, say for example, Kashmiri or Urdu. But the problem arises out of the situation. Urdu is not tangible to the South Indian, and Kashmiri or sorry, and his native tongue is not ascertainable to the Kashmiri. So how would they communicate with each other? How would they carry out business? Because if they have to deal with each other, so Pidgin is the kind of language that they opt for the exchange of the ideas, for the exchange of their viewpoints. So they'll opt a common language which is common to both, and one more thing, native tongue of neither. Native tongue of neither. What does it mean? That they will opt a language which will neither be native tongue or mother tongue of South Indian, nor it will be mother tongue of North Indian. So they'll opt a common medium that will be called Pidgin. They'll say for example they'll opt English as their common medium of for communication, for exchange of ideas, for exchange of viewpoint. I hope you might have got this. Now the question is dialect. Dialect is the basic or initial form of a language, or before the culmination, or before the formation and standardization of a language. Now, what is difference between language and a dialect? Let me tell you. Basically, dialect. Basically, what we call dialect. Dialect is a language which is spoken by a particular community, inhabitant of a particular region, and which is confined to that particular region and is not universal in nature. So let me let me dictate this definition from this slide, and then I'll try to make it ascertainable to you people. Dialect it is a particular form of a language which is peculiar to a specific region or social group. It means that it is a language, or the initial form of the language, which is peculiar, which is not familiar to a specific region. It is confined to a specific region. It is, as I told you earlier, it is not universal. It is not standardized form or social group. It is confined to a social group or to a particular region or to a particular area. It is the usage of vocabulary that is characteristic of specific group of people. Say for example, when a specific group of people uh, speaks a language, that is called dialect. It is also called local language, local tongue, or local speech. Let me elaborate it a little bit uh, so that it may be graspable easily for you people. Basically, dialect is say for example, Dogri. Dogri is a dialect because Dogri is confined to a particular area which is spoken in 4 to 6 districts of Jammu division. It is, it can't transgress the geographical boundaries. Say for example, people migrate from here to the other place, but they won't be able to influence people. They won't be able to bring Dogri to the level of dominance where people will start speaking Dogri. So it is a dialect. And other thing, very important thing that I want to communicate here is that a dialect doesn't have its manuscript. MANS uh, doesn't have its MANSUSCRIPT manuscript. A dialect doesn't have its manuscript. What is manuscript now? Let me explain you. Say for example, English is written in English. These alphabets uh, uh, may be called the uh, manuscript of the English language. And then we have Urdu, these and Urdu and Hindi, Ka, Kha and Alif Be. These are the we can say these are the Rasmul Khat or manuscript of these languages. But Dogri doesn't have, say for example, Dogri doesn't have manuscript. It is dialect. It, though we have Dogri literature, we have Kashmiri literature, we have Pahadi literature, we have Gojri literature, and all. But these are merely dialects, not the established languages, because there is a standard, there is a criteria which takes a dialect to the language, which is the manuscript. Mm. And the language that doesn't have manuscript is uh, called dialect. Say for example, what is dialect? Let me elucidate this point. Uh, each and every language of the world develops from the dialect. English was dialectical in nature initially because we had East Midland dialect, which was spoken in eastern side of the country. We had Saxon West Saxon dialect, which was spoken in the west of the country. We had Northumbrian, which was spoken in the north of the country. Okay, and then we have Northumbrian, and then we have Kentish. We'll discuss it in detail when we'll start a new lecture about the origin of English language and its development. So these are the dialects. Dialect is very simple definition: a language which is spoken by a particular community or people living in a particular area, which is not universal in nature, which is not ascertainable to the people of the other area. A language which is language of a small area may be categorized, or we call it dialect in terms of phonetics. Next is vernacular. Uh, it is a speech spoken as one's mother tongue, not learned or imposed as second language, and a characteristic language of a particular group and spoken locally confined to a limited area. So, basically, vernacular is one's mother tongue. And what is difference between dialect and vernacular? This is a very important point to be noted here. Dialect and vernacular, they are similar in nature, but we can nuance between these two terms. Dialect is dialect can be learnt. If somebody comes to a particular area where for example, Pahadi is where people speak Pahadi, he doesn't know Pahadi or Kashmiri or Dogri or Gojri. But when that gentleman will arrive in that area, he starts learning that language in order to understand and in order to convey and communicate his message to the people. But this vernacular is not learnt. This is mother tongue of the people. It is not imposed. It is the language which is spoken in the houses, and children learn this language without any effort, and they learn it without making any special endeavor to learn it, and they naturally learn it. So we can say that it is mother tongue of the people. So the vernacular is mother tongue of the people, and the mother tongue of the people is also somewhere confined to a particular area. Next is jargon. uh, this is very important term. uh, the definition of the jargon is: it is unintelligible talk, it is an artificial idiom or dialect. What is jargon? Basically, it is a language which is unascertainable to the people. Why it is unascertainable to the people? There is a reason for it. It is a language which we cannot understand. This is the special vocabulary of the special vocabulary, and you cannot take that vocabulary, you cannot understand that vocabulary uh, if that vocabulary is taken out of context. It is used by professional. Say for example, uh, in cricket there is a term leg before LBW. uh, if we take this outside the context of the cricket, the word seems unintelligible to the common masses. Say for example, in table tennis or in volleyball, we have a series of the score like love 1 2 3 4 and 5. In context of badminton or in context of volleyball, love stands for 0. Love doesn't stand for the love, affection, and all. So and similarly, citing example from cricket, there is a term duck. Duck simply means a bird that uh, a bird which lays egg, and a very beautiful bird. But in cricket, duck is a term which is used for a batsman who comes and gets bowled without scoring a run and then run out. This is also a term. You cannot understand these terms out of the context of this. So the jargon is a sort of language which is unintelligible out of the context in which it is spoken. Next term is slang. It is low vulgar or unauthorized language. It is low vulgar or unauthorized language. Vulgar stands for uh, a word. Vulgar doesn't here stands for obscenity or anything related to obscenity, but vulgar here stands for a vocabulary that you cannot use before the people who are either elder to you in strata or people whom you fear. Say for example, the way we communicate in a grapevine manner with our friends, with our classmates, we can't speak in the same manner with our parents or in front of our parents, in front of our elders. So slang is a term which is used for a language which is unauthorized language, which is the language which a language which is not sophisticated language, and it contains popular but unauthorized word, phrases or modes of expression also similar to the jargon of some particular calling or class in society. So it is uh, these are the terms which are related to the slang. The word has almost uncertain origin about 1750, and thereafter defined at least once. It is it has been defined by some anonymous author, street language. You can understand it easily that what is street language. Street language is a language which is far away from sophistication, which is far away from morality, which is far away from modesty. So this is common language, or the common slangs are the way we communicate to our friends, and which contains a little bit abusive language, and which contains a little bit sexist and little bit yeah, jabberwockish kind of uh, slangs. Now, the most important term is register, and the question has been asked by UGC NET in by UGC NET and JK SET in 2016. So, the register is, let me dictate it from the slide, and then I'll try to elaborate it. Register is a language used in a particular setting. Register basically is a language which is used in a particular setting. It means that a sort of language which is used in a particular context is called register. Say, for example, doctor's vocabulary. The terms that are used by doctors, if we use those terms out of the medical dictionary, we won't be able to make it won't make any sense in English. What is applicable in medical sciences may not be applicable in English. Or say, for example, we have a word educand and educator in the subject education psychology. There educand, if you search this word in the dictionary, you won't find it, but in that context you will get the meaning that educand is one who educates, who is being educated, and educator is one who is educating. And similarly, we have a word individual. Individual basically, in English, it stands for, individual stands for a person, an entity, a living being. But in education psychology, individual stands for the person, for the student who is in the care of a teacher or a expert. The next is colloquial. Uh, Colloquial basically stands for a conversational or everyday, casual, non-literary, natural, unofficial, unpretentious, familiar, uh, chatty, friendly, and idiomatic language. The language is basically spoken in the homes or in the particular community. So these are the terms which are associated with the language that one should understand before getting to the to the next level, which is origin and development of the language, especially English language. These are the terms. I hope you got a maximum out of it, and kindly subscribe my channel and press the bell icon so that you get the notification of every new lecture that will be uploaded shortly. Remember that you have to watch all the lectures on the origin and development of English language in order to simplify the complexity of the in order to understand the complexity of the language, or to simplify the complexity of the origin and development, and further enhancement of this language. These terms are important from UGC NET point of view, from the entrances point of view. So remember these terms. If you find any sort of difficulty or any sort of confusion, you can leave your feedback in the comment section, and it will be replied appropriately. Once again, I request you, because your subscription is our encouragement. Don't go away without subscribing this channel. Thank you so much for giving your time. In the next series, we'll discuss about the origin of the English language from 1660, from the time when Anglo-Saxon arrived and landed on after crossing the North Sea. Thank you so much. Have a nice time ahead, and God bless you all. Thank you.